Hello everyone, welcome to the Daily Marker 30-Day Coloring Challenge. I'm so excited to share with you. I love these stamps from Penny Black. There's several women in this series and I just added to my collection of them. I love them. And I had so much fun watercoloring this. I can't believe it turned out this way. So what I did was I copied the well, I used the packaging as my inspiration. I didn't copy it 100%. And I'll show you that later, else you can click over to my blog. You'll see it in this video. So right now I'm just prepping my palette. I'm prepping, and I'm using some of this Distress ink. And I really like to paint with Distress ink this way. I get like a nicer wash. So you always want to start out with a clean brush, and I'm just putting a base layer of color on her face. And sometimes, see, I was on the airplane doing some watercoloring. I think I was doing one of these girls. Excuse me. And I didn't have, it was like a funky color. It was a zig marker. But even if you we always encourage you to use the supplies you have, and even if it appears to be a funky color, when it's watered down, it might be like a really interesting color. So I just encourage you not to be turned off when you do a test swipe of it or something. So just add more water and see where it goes. So now I'm kind of adding a second layer while it's still wet. And I keep having this loose brush, a loose brush hair on my brush there, which has kind of been annoying me. So you see that I add a little bit of that darker color up near the hairline. I usually always just shade that area just because. And now I'm bringing some of that pink onto the cheeks. I always like a large rosy cheek. I feel like I wear a lot of blush and my people need to wear a lot of blush, and it just looks a lot more interesting too. So I'm just kind of blending that out. You don't need a very wet brush when you're doing this kind of watercoloring. And you'll notice that I keep dabbing off on my towel. I found that putting your watercoloring directly on a towel, like forget the craft mat, it just is so handy to have it right there. Now this is the packaging. You can see that I'm referring to that there. And she has a nice rosy cheek as well. Her cheeks are a little bit more orangey, and I just grabbed the pink, so that's what I'm doing. Just grabbed a swig of water there. So then I'm using my damp brush just to blend those cheeks out. And you just keep on adding and blending, but if it's too wet, you can't do that. Now, on the packaging, she's got this definition to the nose, so I'm giving it a shot, and it's kind of fun to step out of your comfort zone and do that. So I just wanted you to see the process. I'm going to speed it up a little bit. Sometimes it's actually faster, easier to watch it sped up, I think. But I don't know. I'm just watching here. I also like to, unfortunately, I have dark circles under my eyes, and everybody's underneath their eyes is a different color than their face anyway. So I always like to add a little baggage under the eyes. So I'll keep coming back and adding just a little bit more to that area. And I think it adds a lot of interest as well. Now in the packaging, she brings that brown line down under the chin, under the nose, and a little bit maybe under the lip, but I don't think I did that. But I just found this so fun. I've actually, I colored another one of these that I stamped on Nina with Memento. Now these girls well, this girl was, I stamped a bunch at once, but I used India ink, which works great with watercoloring. Lydia Fiedler gave me that recommendation, and I really, really like it. And then I did stamp some of her on Nina with Memento paper. So I know CHA is coming up, and I actually had a little time to do this ahead. I never ever do anything ahead on the coloring challenges, and full disclosure, I was able to do this ahead because I knew I'd be away. And then there's another one I did with Copics on the airplane because I knew I'd be away, and that's it. Everything else I just wing, and I actually had time to do this ahead, which is so rare. So everything else during the coloring challenge was always like fly by night. So I was excited to do her lips, and I noticed that on the packaging, like the top lip is a little bit darker, and I'm just trying to have like a darker and a lighter area on my lips just for a little bit more interest. But anything that you do works, and these stamps are just so fun. I don't know, I'm in love with them. So I'm just adding a base layer to her neck and her chest area, and my paper is not that wet, so I'm going to be able to drop in some more color, some darker color here, and I'm using that packaging as my reference. Super easy to do. I suggest you give it a try. Now, I would not be able to add this color if I totally saturated my paper when I was doing that base layer. So I think it's always best to start out with your paper just damp, and then you can always bring in more water. But then again, if you're kind of heavy-handed with the water, you can just let it dry or use a heat gun and then bring in more color. And sometimes I'll do that anyway, just let it dry and then bring in more color, especially with like flowers and things. And I'll be doing that on the shirt. So just keep that in mind. But she's starting to come together and have some personality, and it's really fun to watch. It was fun for me to watch while I was doing it. And I'm just going back, adding a little bit in that nook and cranny there. Just defining little areas that have dried, and using, did you see how I just dried my brush off? A very damp brush can just blend that little bit that I added. And then I'm just adding more here under the eyes, and I'll keep tweaking this. You have to be careful. If you add too much color, then you have to blend it out on the whole area. So a drier brush, a drier damp brush, and then just take that color off on the cloth and then kind of blend it out. I don't know what's happening with my voice, but it is what it is. I hope I'm not coming down with a cold or anything. So many people are getting the flu. I hope none of you have the flu. Now I just took my brush, dabbed it in that palette there, and I'm on the packaging. She has like some little freckles, so I thought, stepping out of my comfort zone, I would do that. I do love adding dots, so why wouldn't I love adding freckles? And these will get softer later. You'll see. So I just added some more distress ink. I just want to work on those eyes, and having a not too wet brush and just a darker color is super easy. Just little tiny tweaks here and there. See, I'm going back there just in that little tiny crevice, just adding a little bit. And then there you go. Not everything's blended out, but it's interesting, and that's what matters. Now, let's move on to the shirt. I'm sure I went and made dinner and came back, or lunch or something. So now I'm adding colors. Yeah, forget the shirt. We're going to go with the hair first. And I'm sure if you watch my videos regularly, you know that I'm not a fan of doing hair. I'd much rather do a face and flowers and have someone else do the hair for me. So I love that the packaging doesn't really have like really highlighted hair where there's, you know, all the different streaks and stuff. So that makes me really happy, and it's less pressure to make it look like that. So I'm just, I always like to have a part, and I kind of focus on that. I'll come back to the part, and I always like to make that darker, kind of like your roots are growing out. So I'm just putting a darker color on the edge there and kind of dipping into my orange color, and just, you know, I just wing it. I don't really know what I'm doing. So I'll just be going back and forth from the water to the towel to the paint, and we'll just see how it looks. But the thing is, just not to worry about it. Everything can be corrected, and when this is totally dry, you could go back over it and fix it or add more colors, or else you could just leave it like this and then go in and add colored pencils, you know, for some darker highlights or something. So there's a lot of different ways. So the most important part is not to get stressed out. And you really want the face to be more the focus anyway. So on my blog, I'll have links to the other girls in this series. I was on a road trip and I bought 3 of them, and then I was in the Simon Says Stamp store looking for them, and I saw that there was 2 other ones. So I was so excited just because I'm a collector and I love these, so I felt like I really needed to get them. Usually I don't always suffer from full set syndrome. I don't have all the Copic markers. I don't have any of the Nuvo drops. I just like to keep my supplies simple. All right, so enough about me. So now you can see I've picked up some of that darker color. Doesn't matter what darker color. You could even mix some purple in with brown, and that would be really cool. So I'm just focusing on that one area there. And then I'm going to move on to the left side. Okay, so just one little bit here, and then I'm going to move on to her shirt. Woohoo, I'm excited for that. Now, if I had more time, I would have stamped a pattern on her shirt. I love doing that. Like, you take some of those little mini stamps that you have in a stamp set, and then it's easy to mask it off with Post-it paper, and then just do a fun little random pattern. That is so much fun, and I just love that. So since I didn't, I'm going to do a stripe, but first I'm just mixing these colors. This is a little bit more wet than the other areas were, just to blend out these colors, and then I'll come back and add the stripes when this dries. I just kind of wanted a little bit of a interesting background, and now I'm back and I'm going to add some stripes, just freehand, any which way. And again, if something messes up, you can just come back when it's dry and fix it, or you could use a ruler as a guide, but I just kind of wing it. I can draw a fairly straight line, so I'm pretty lucky about that. And then I thought the third stripe, I would do a different color. Since I already had it on my palette, why not, right? So then later, when everything's all dry, I'll add some of those little eyelash lines to the shirt and just have some fun there. And I just wanted that to add a little bit of a color variation. So I'm just going back to those other two colors, just adding a little bit more, and now I'm putting some brown on that bottom one just to make it, I always like to add another color just to make it a little bit more interesting. So I know this is all dry. I'm going to trace over her with my Sharpie. I haven't mentioned that I've been doing this since I started stamping. I just feel like it makes what you're coloring pop. Now, I always use the bumpy side of the paper. I love the Tim Holtz paper because it's pre-cut, and there's a smooth side and a textured side, and I always use the textured side. I just think there just gives a lot more interest. So then when you're doing this, you just have to go slow in case you go over a little bit of a bump. So I'm just taking my time going around this whole thing, and then I'll just add some fun little details to her shirt. I'll do her eyes, her nose, everything. Sometimes I don't do the eyes. I might just do like the where you'd put eyeliner, that one part of the eyes, or I might use the 0.03 super fine. So, you know, whatever works for you. And I think I'm just doing one line on the eyebrow. I don't want to make it too prominent, but this really does make a difference. I suggest you notice my full hand is on the pad of paper. I use that kind of like to sturdy my hand. And now I'm just doing those fun little lines, little eyelash lines for texture. Like, you know, there's just like some little purposeful fuzz on her shirt. Kind of like a lace sticking up. I guess it's a fringe, really. But I just get carried away. I love it. It's just a subtle texture. I'm sure not even everybody notices it. But, you know, it's what we enjoy doing. And then because I love it so much, I'm just going to do it here on the stripes too. Super easy. And this is what it looked like before I added the detail on her shirt. And then I had time to lay her up on a card, and this is what she looks like all finished. Oh, I'm sorry, but I added eyelashes too. I think that's important to do. So thank you so much for watching. All the supplies are linked down below, and a thumbs up if you like this. See you next time.